I'm Narelle Todd.
And I'm Essie Susan Smith.
We are the self-publishing author and marketing duo that has sold over 2 million books. But we didn't start out knowing how to sell books. Fast forward past many failed promotions and a lot of lessons learned, you will see how we went from self-publishing newbies to hitting the New York Times bestsellers list and making the USA Today bestsellers list 19 times and counting. We created the Get My Book Out There podcast to give you simple yet effective marketing strategies to increase readership and book sales, so you know what to do, when to do it, and how to do it, as well as some tips for staying mentally and physically well.
Let's get started.
We have a doozy for you today. We're going to be talking about editing. So that all important thing, you've got the book written, you've got the words out of your head down onto the page. And now it comes time for for some people, the dreaded editing process could actually take longer sometimes than actually writing the book. So we're going to go through 3 things to be mindful of when editing. Susan's an expert at this with her bazillion books that she has out. So we're going to hand it over to Susan. So share with us your 3 tips for editing.
Well, I have to say that editing is like one of the things that I hate the most. Like, oh my gosh, now you want me to go clean the baby up? It's like having poop all over it, and you got to go back and find all the fresh wipes, and it was a nice juicy one. So sometimes you're just saying, I am done and over with this.
Oh, thanks for that image.
That's part of being a creative writer, is you really can apply life skills to your writing.
Well, now we've grossed everyone out. And we've now worked out how much you actually don't love editing. That's funny.
When it comes time to grab that bundle of fresh wipes or fill that bathtub up, or forget the bathtub because you don't want it floating around, you need the shower. So what happens is you utilize the tools that you have. And whether you're writing in Word, which is what I use, or Pages, many of the applications that you use for writing allow a speak function. And most people, they have it, but they don't utilize it, or they have it and they're not aware of it. And it is by far the absolute greatest resource, free resource that's with your computer that you've already got that you should be utilizing. So what I do is I actually, from what I've written, I always go back and I have it play back to me. And I usually do it more than once, because what I like to do is I like to listen to it and follow along, because it highlights the words as it's going by. And you're able to hear the cadence. A lot of people don't even think about the fact that their writing should have a cadence, a melody to it. And that rhythm, that if the rhythm is choppy, the reader is not going to be able to get into it. So you'll know if that writing is choppy, it's going to pull you out, and you're going to be focusing more on the words than the images that they're building. Or you're going to be really into the scene, and then there'll be a word that is said that kind of jerks you out, and you're like, for one of the ones that's really big with me is I'll write with instead of when. And so it's like, whoa, wait a minute, that shouldn't be there. Or I'll forget an A or a the, or I'll have the thought of the sentence, but I'll forget to complete that sentence. So I'll have the sentence and the thought, it just suddenly stops. Yeah. And it's like, it'll jerk me out of that moment. And then I'm able to go back and I'm adding that. And then as I'm doing it, I'll be listening, and it's like that cadence is good, but there's still something missing. And it's amazing when you're doing that, you can change one word and the sentence will go from okay to just popping. And you're listening to it and it's like, whoa, yes, that's it. After I've done it once, listening to it and following along, I tend to listen to it a second time with my eyes closed. And a lot of people are like, why would you do that? Well, when you have your eyes closed and you're focusing, your sense of hearing comes even more pronounced.
Yes.
And I'm able to really close my eyes, shut everything off for what I'm hearing, and that visual picture builds in my mind. And I'm listening to that cadence. And another great thing is as you're listening to it, you're getting an idea, how would this book sound if it was narrated into an audiobook? So that gives you another step saying, oh yeah, this is going to sound good. It's really going to work. Or that scene's not right. Or, how did I get from here to here? I forgot something. Or, they just walked through a door without opening it, or they walked out without putting any clothes on, and oh my God, they're naked. I better go right back and put some pants on them at least. So these are some of the things that you can actually use when you're writing to help you with your editing. And it's one of the first things that I do. After that, I have a series of software programs that I use that are very helpful. For years and years, I use a program called Ginger Software, and I liked it because it highlights each sentence, so you'll get the sentence and it'll give you a suggested sentence if it needs to make a change. They've made some changes. I was grandfathered in when I bought it, because I bought it years and years ago, but I used it extensively and I still like to use it because, like I said, it goes through and it will highlight every single sentence in your story as you go along. It can be very time consuming, and there's a lot of times where I'll say ignore because it'll make suggestions, but it doesn't always go good with creative writing. But if I'm using it and it catches a dozen corrections in a chapter, that's a dozen corrections that could have been missed.
Do you do the process before you send out to an editor?
I do all of this process before I send it to the editor. Because for me, I'm trying to send them the cleanest work that I can at the moment, get to them, because I know I'm going to have enough work when I get it back. Two other programs that are really popular is Grammarly. That's a really big one, and Pro Writing Aid. And I have to say, I've been using Pro Writing Aid for a little over a year now. And again, look for those coupons because you can get a good discount when you purchase it. But it has all kinds of functions that are fabulous. And they just introduced a new one that I was talking to another author who uses it. And I said, did you see they now have a fiction option? And if you click down, then it goes through, dialogue and pacing and that kind of thing. But what I love about it is it looks at my story and it will tell me, am I overusing? It checks the grammar and the style, and it'll make suggestions. But then it'll also tell me, am I overusing a word? How is my pacing? Do I have enough dialogue compared to narrative? So it really can go into just so much of really breaking your story down and helping you clean it up more. I know that I tend to add in a lot of words, and so it'll come back through and say, omit, 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 omit. And when I go back and I reread it, it's like, yeah, I can omit this. It actually tightens the story up. So those are the three, the programs that I use for that.
So in a way, I guess it's telling you to stop being so verbose, even in your writing. That's hilarious. That
it is.
Technology, in effect, can determine that and work that out. So
it's amazing how technology has come, but there really is no substitute for having great beta readers and editors.
Yes. Yeah.
Because even though I can write a story that sounds great, when they come back through, the editors, I've been fortunate, I found 2 editors who are very good. They're different. Well, actually, I have 3 editors that are very, very good at what they do. So I do pay a significant amount per book for editing. But, once you get to that point where you may just have one editor, and then you can build another one, utilize your beta readers in between or in conjunction with having an editor is fabulous because they each pick up something different. I have one that is great at, content and plot holes, and, she'll let me know that this doesn't make any sense, or, just specific things that the other 2 may miss. I have another one that is fabulous with, with the grammar, but she's really good at like substituting words. And she catches like the little nitpicking stuff that the other 2 miss. Yeah. And then I have one who is like the grammar queen. I get it back and it's like filled with red marks. So, it's like being back in school again. And all I can think of is, I'm such a terrible writer. And what's really funny is she'll make all these links to, this is the grammar rule for this. This is how you're supposed to use this comma. This is when you're supposed to do this. You're not, body parts do not move on their own. And, when you're writing it and then you reread it and even listen to it, it sounds Right. But when you really look into it, you realize no, body parts cannot move by themselves.
Yes.
So she catches those things that, that the other two may miss, or at least one of them may miss. The other one may say, oh, it's not that big a deal. And she's like, no, it is a big deal. So you need to look at this. And, I laugh and I tell her, I said, I'm gradually learning, but I can't remember all the stuff that I still have to learn. So it's going to take a little bit of while. And so it's nice having, and another benefit is they're all different ages. So I have one that's in their 20s, one that's in their late 40s, early 50s, and one that's in their 70s. And by having this generation, I'm also appealing to my readers from all of these age groups. I'm not just coming off as an old lady or as, this young 20-something-year-old. So it helps me expand my readership because I'm able to connect at all different age groups.
Yes.
But that's something else, you may not think about, but you really should as an author, because that helps later on with your marketing and with, diversifying and expanding.
Yeah. And certainly engaging beta readers to go through you get those super fans who are so invested in your world. They can tell you probably things about the characters that even you as the writer forgot or weren't even aware of. And they can spot a plot hole a mile away. They're phenomenal. And they're like, but back in, book 1 or whatever, you did this, and then, here you are in book 20. And you just go, gosh, how do you remember that kind of specific detail about characters and stuff? Once again, I think feeding into that variety of people looking at your books. Obviously, grammar is important, but then so is the character and the worlds. And have you got those things going on? Have you missed things or got timelines wrong? Those sorts of things really, like
and one of the things you have to remember is that even perfect grammar, you have to sometimes, for fictional writing, you don't want perfect grammar. No, because it can become two-dimensional or kind of stilted. You want to keep that rounded three-dimensional world, that's filled with colors and, emotions and things that, if the grammar guru says, well, the sentence should not be written this way. No, it shouldn't be written this way. But you know what? I connect with it being written this way.
Yes. And people actually talk that way.
That's the way they talk. And
you
tend, as an author, you tend to write as you talk. So that's one of the other things that you need to consider. So you don't want to edit to the point that you lose your voice in your story. Yeah. Remember, ultimately, when I make all of these changes, ultimately, it's my voice and it's my world and it's my baby and my everything, my poop. That's all over it, that I have to say, yes, I'm keeping, or no, I'm not. And don't be afraid to do that. They may argue with you. And I'm like, you can argue all you want. This is the way I want it. So this is the way it's going to be. You may do all these edits. I may only take 98% of them, or 99.9%, or 90%. But the thing is I'm keeping my voice in the story.
Yeah. Oh, you definitely have to maintain that. And it's so great when you find an editor who understands that and understands your voice and gets that it's not about 100% correct grammar. It is about everyday spoken language. And that's what needs to be in the story. If you were writing a non-fiction book, then yes, I think grammar is totally relevant and it should be 100%. But in fiction, gosh, you've got to go with how we talk and how we relate.
Yeah.
No one talks correct.
There are rules where you do have to, you do need to continue to grow. And that's one of the things that I've noticed in my own writing and what I've learned from my beta readers and from my editors and listening to the readers. The readers love the story. And I have to say, if I were to just publish my stories, I think that they're clean enough with using the methods that I do with reading it back to me and all the software programs. And I mean, even just doing a simple spell check with Pages or Word will catch a lot of mistakes. But with this, I've learned a lot. And through that learning, I've made my writing tighter. I've made it flow better, the cadence even a little bit better. So I've embraced those changes.
Yeah. You definitely can see that from, the the first couple of books through to where you are now at book 80. And that is the goal, I think, for any writer, is to continually be improving, continually learning, not only writing and marketing, all of those things. We all need to be continual learners.
It's funny though. I went back and I read some of my very first books that I had written, and it was neat getting lost in them as an author and as a reader. But I was reading them and I got lost in the story. They were very visual, and I was thinking, dang, these aren't bad. I was afraid to actually pick it up, thinking I was going to just be devastated by all of the mistakes and errors and this, that, and the other I would find in them. But instead, I found that I got lost in the story, that I really enjoyed them, but I could still appreciate the fact that, and be proud of myself, do that pat on the back, that I'm seeing this growth in myself, in my profession. And it's like being, in anything. If you're playing golf or riding a bicycle or figure skating or running track, the more you do it, the better you get at it, and the more you learn. And you're not going to be like brilliant the first day out, but 10 years down the road, you're really going to know your craft. And that's been my goal.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. Well, there you have it. There's Susan's recommendations, her 3 tips for editing. So we've got the speak function. So get familiar with that if you haven't already on your...
No cost to that.
Yeah, that's always...
Spell check, no cost to that.
Yes. You may want to have a look at Grammarly, ProWriting Age, was it Ginger software?
Yes,
so there's a couple of other paid options. Yes, and the coupons. And then to round it all off is utilize your beta readers and work with editors who get you and fit within your budget. So 3 really great tips there. Thank you.
Well, I hope they work.
Yes, definitely. I think probably for most writers, editing is a really tough one because it is going back and it's questioning yourself, not only the story, but, is my story good enough? I think all power, anything that can help you with the editing process, I think, writers need to embrace that. Be aware it's a growing process. How you write today may be very different to how you write in 10 years' time, but today's the day that you're going to get started and you're going to get into it. And then you can look back in 10 years and go, wow, look at what I created back then. And as you say, give yourself a pat on the back.
I would like to throw in one quick bonus tip.
Yes. Okay.
One of the things that I've learned is also break your chapters down. So when you're going to edit your chapters, basically have like chapter 1, the name of your book, chapter 1, send it to the editors. The name of your book, chapter 2, send it to your editors. Edit and then copy and paste it back into your original document. When you do it that way, when you send a whole book and you've got, 7,000 corrections that you need to make, it gets overwhelming.
Yeah.
And it's so much easier when you break it down like that, and then you do the chapter by chapter, because you don't get mental fatigue or eye strain from doing it. And psychologically, you don't get overwhelmed by the fact that you've got 6,542 more edits to go before you can go to the bathroom. Because you don't want to lose your spot. So, by breaking it down chapter by chapter, it actually makes it, I think, a little bit easier on the editors, because they also can keep track of what they've done and then send it to you. But it's much easier for you on a mental and physical level. And then do those edits and then copy and paste it back into the final one back into your final manuscript.
Yeah. That's a really good tip for mental health, if nothing else.
Yeah. So I wanted to add that one in.
Yeah, that's really awesome, because this is, writing as a business is about long term. So you do need to keep your sanity and your mental health. That's a really good one.
And I think that was one reason why I, became to the point where I dreaded doing editing so much, was because it was just an overwhelming task. And, by doing it, breaking it down into bite-sized pieces, it just makes the flow better. I just feel more invigorated once I've done it, and it's not as overwhelming.
Yeah. And you may find that editors too, you can work with editors that you may not have thought you could have, because they could, fit into their schedule a chapter as opposed to fitting in a whole book, at one time. Whereas if you are, say, divvying out a chapter, let's say every couple of days or every week or something, they can just do that when they just want to do something real quick and short. So
Yeah.
you may be able to work with an editor. It doesn't always have to be you have to produce a full book for an editor. So
Yeah.
maybe chat with different editors and see if that's some flexibility that they would like in their schedules as well. Yeah, don't be put off by that idea. I like it. Awesome. Rightio. Well, thank you so much, Susan. You always have some good stuff for us on the actual mechanics of writing and staying well and healthy.
And remember, everyone, today's the day. Get out there and start writing.
Absolutely. Rightio.
See you
Thanks,
later.
everyone. Bye.
Bye.
Hey, thanks for joining us today. You know we've got way more information we want to share with you to increase your book sales. So please come and join me at facebook.com. Get my book out there.